Hey, everybody. We are live. We're a few minutes behind 10 o'clock, but it's a Saturday morning.
We all
Oh,
had to get our
man.
hat trick.
Yes.
Oh, didn't we, though? I'm on number two this morning, but whatever.
Mhm.
Um, it's a thing. So it is November the 2nd. Now, if you're watching this later at the end of every, like, I don't know, you'd be watching this 6 months from now. I don't know. But right now it's November 2nd. And so we're starting a new month. Autumn in the Northern Hemisphere is definitely heavily upon us. It's getting chilly. And if you are watching, I would love to know, we would love to know where you're from. Also, this is a perfect moment to hit share, send this over to your own profile, tag a friend who needs to join and watch with you. And if you do that right now, it tells Facebook that this is content people want to watch. So that's that's a great place to start. I'm here with Wilderness to Wilds, Coach Emily and Coach Deb. And we're doing a Saturday morning series, just coffee and convo with the coaches. So we're here to do a couple of things. One, to just interact, share some stuff that we're thinking about, things that we've learned in our own journey. And two, to, answer questions. It's a free chance to just sit around and chill with us and answer questions that might be on your mind. And if there's things we can answer, we will do our best. And if not, we will drop links and give you ideas of where to go find answers because we are good at finding answers for stuff we don't know. Hi, Charmaine. You're in South Carolina. You know what? I was in North Carolina yesterday um, on a project one of my kids was doing, videoing hurricane relief documentation that boys and girls clubs have been doing. It's actually really cool. Um, so out of 4,600 boys and girls clubs, I have to brag on my kiddo. 4,600 boys and girls clubs. Um, the one where we live has a film crew, and it's entirely teenager student led, middle school and high school film crew. And they got chosen to accompany the president of the Boys and Girls Clubs of America on a 1 day blitz tour of three of the Boys and Girls Clubs in the hard hit areas of the hurricane in the mountains of North Carolina. Because there, some of the Boys and Girls Clubs locations have opened, like one of them, the school got destroyed in one town. So the club center opened its facility to be the school. In another one, they were housing the children of hospital workers that were needing to work around the clock so that the children of hospital workers would have a safe place to be. Another one was accepting a ton of donations and helping to distribute all sorts of stuff. So our kids from our club were filming interviews and testimonies and stories about how this has made a difference in the community. So it was super cool to watch one of my kids being involved with interviewing and that kind of thing. And I also got to see two things besides, well, obviously it was cool to interact with that. But I also got to hang out with Andrew and Christy Bauman for lunch and go see the space where we will be doing the Safe Church Conference March 7th and 8th. And you guys are planning to come for that too, right?
Yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. I didn't get to go inside and see all the space, but I got to see around the area and the location that we're going to have. There's some really good spots for food 2 blocks down the street.
We have to plan around food.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think we do. I really think we do. And hold on, because while I have this on my mind, I am going to also um, put the link to that underneath just in case anybody wants to grab like the online ticket or wants to come in person. Hang on.
It's early bird until December what?
Yes. I think it's December 31st.
Yeah.
Safe
31st, yeah.
Conference. Okay. I'm tagging the Facebook event and people internationally even can grab the live stream for the keynotes. And there's the information. Just dropped that in. So that should help. Jay Stringer, Dr. Andrew Bauman, Dr. Christy Bauman, Dr. Camden Morgante, Rick Pidcock, and me. We're doing that. And super excited about it. How have you guys been? Any books you've been reading lately besides,
I just started Jay Stringer's Unwanted.
Oh.
Tell me more. What's your impressions?
I'm just at the beginning, the very, very beginning, so I don't have a lot, but what I have read, I like so far.
Okay.
It has a very gentle and safe approach and very vulnerable. I have talked to others who have read the book and they have nothing but glowing reviews to say. I know trusted advocates promote the book. There is not very many healthy books out there that address sexual addiction, unwanted sexual behavior, compulsive behavior. There are so few out there. And to have one that I can wholeheartedly trust just based off of others' recommendations, I'm thankful that it exists.
That's really cool. That's how I felt when I was reading The Sex Talk You Never Got by Sam Jolman the last couple of weeks. Very similar approach. And really, really appreciated that one. The bookshelf of great books for this topic is like this big.
Yeah.
Oh man. Let me drop the link to Unwanted in there as well. How about you, Deb? How have you been doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I actually just finished reading The Woman They Wanted by Shannon.
That is on my to-read stack.
Yeah, it was on mine too, and now it's officially been read. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I was one of those Joshua Harris followers, I guess. In his heyday, it was like right at the time that I was going through youth group, and like definitely it formed my view of what relationships supposedly should look like and what it would mean to honor God in relationship and dating. And now it's 20 plus years later and I'm having to revisit all of that again. But reading Shannon's experience, I feel like it's very empowering. She expresses a lot about how she lost herself in church culture, and that as a result, her marriage was similar, where she and Josh were just filling a role more than finding out what true loving connective partnership looks like.
Yeah.
So it was really fascinating to hear from her side of things. And then my next go-to read, I want to be Recovering from Purity Culture, which will be addressing her ex.
Hold on a second.
I know it.
Right here.
Perfectly done. Yes, I'm excited for that.
I'm more than halfway through this one. It's so good.
And she's going to be at the SAFE conference too, Dr. Morgan.
Yes, she is one of the breakout presenters at the SAFE Churches conference. I'm super excited about that. Yes. I love what you were bringing up about revisiting the ways that we have understood the expectations that God has for us, the expectations the church has for us, the expectations of how to do all of those things in our, to live out all of those things in our relationships in healthy ways. And I've been on a decade-long unraveling. So I don't know that it is anything that I am going to be done with right away. It just seems to be a consistently ongoing journey and experience. But I literally just finished A Well-Trained Wife by Tia Leving. Now on November 20th, the plan is I'm going to be interviewing her as a Wednesday morning for our Coffee and Convo with Authors. But that book was a powerful and chilling and overwhelmingly familiar, even though everyone's stories are slightly different. So many stories are exactly the same, if that makes sense. And it was jarring for me to read, probably in a really good way. I'm dropping the link here into the chat as well. But it left me feeling really reflective and full of just reconsideration and thoughtfulness about how what we believe impacts what we do. And I don't just mean what we do in front of people. I mean more like what I believe about God impacts what I believe about me, which impacts what I believe I'm worthy of, whether I deserve shame or safety. It impacts what I believe about God, impacts how I treat other people. Because if I believe that being chosen by God makes me better than other people, then I can treat other people like crap and I shouldn't feel sorry for it, right? So I actually wrote a Facebook post about it. It went live this morning. I won't read the whole thing, but in a religious system with healthy beliefs, here's what I wrote this morning. Those who choose to act harmfully, cruelly, coercively will face consequences, right? They will be stopped by those around them. They run up against a wall of accountability comprised of those in possession of healthy, kind, balanced mindsets, because their mindset is shaped by a system infrastructure of healthy core belief systems. So when healthy belief systems are the foundation, evil meets opposition. Like, this is a really short way to put it. And that means that known perpetrators become outliers instead of predators being the ones who define the system's status quo. But if a system is rooted in harmful beliefs, then those who act with entitlement and control and coercion are simply acting according to what is being taught in the belief system. And then they are venerated and revered or even promoted to power, more power. So in high control belief systems, the theology carves out space for hierarchical control and lets it thrive, right? And then it baptizes coercion in holiness and says it's actually, if you're being coercive, you're following a divine mandate. And now I know that there are people who are just plain evil, and they pop up everywhere, right? Like there's evil people in good systems, and there's evil people in evil systems, and there's evil people in neutral systems. Like there's like people who just want to do harm everywhere. But there are also good people in evil systems, and there are good people in good systems, and there are good people in neutral systems. And the presence of having good people doesn't absolve us from accountability for allowing bad behavior to dominate. So when there's this disproportionate ratio of coercive, controlling, entitled behavior, and that commonly thrives and is rewarded in a system, then we have to look at the underlying belief system and ask ourselves, like, what are the subconscious and conscious beliefs that are underpinning the pillars of our teachings and shaping this space that allows people to harm each other without any system of checks or balances? We have to assess the components of belief that allow or even encourage evil to flourish. And then, if we are honest, we have to either address the factors that we discover or exit the system. Like, we can't stay in a system that promotes perpetrators, that applauds harm, that creates space for coercive, controlling, abusive behavior to thrive. We can't stay in that and keep our integrity. We have to either be actively working to change it and be willing to face the fire for it, or we have to leave the system. I don't see any other option. Do you guys see any other options? Maybe I'm missing something.
No, I'm actually in the middle
Cheers to the Reformation.
I'm in the middle of one of those experiences right now, actually, where I've been visiting a church for a little while, and the personal connection I've had with the pastor, he seems to be very well aware of abuses within the church systems, and he wants to be counter to that, which is really encouraging. But then my personal experiences in the church have been somewhat opposite, particularly when he's out of town and the people that he brings in to fill in for him and the way that their theology is spewed, but also just the dynamic of the church. And I found myself in the last week hitting my own threshold of I feel like it's time to speak up now. This is something that needs to be addressed. The way the men are engaging with me as a woman is feeling appropriate. I actually had an interesting side conversation last night that brought a little light to it, because where I live, there's a lot of Latter-day Saints, Mormons, and their church structure is very hierarchical, patriarchal. The men hold priesthood, they hold spiritual authority and power over women. And someone was commenting to me last night that it's just this area in general where the church concentration is so high, so it affects the cultural way that people interact with each other, meaning men don't talk to women in general. And now I'm seeing that applied to the Christian church, where there feels like there's this environment of equality, but the actual experiences that I've had are not that at all. I watch people come up to me and ask about my children and then move on to speak to another man. I have a full conversation. So
about real things.
About real things, right. So I am currently in this attempt again with another church to say, hey, this is what I see. Mm-hmm. Is there something that I'm missing? I experience this of you, Pastor, but I'm experiencing this of the church. What is your plan for integrating your views with the way the church actually functions? What is the church structure and vision moving forward? what are the safeguards that can be in place or are in place? And can I have a voice in that? So I feel like it's not the most comfortable place to be, like you're saying. If you're in a system and you see this, you have to get to a point where you say something or do something different. And it's not comfortable, but I think it is necessary if any of those systems are going to have even an opportunity to change, because they can't change what they don't have an opportunity to look at.
Right. I think, I know we are not required to say, hey, but not everybody's like that. On balance, there's all these really great things over here. Because sometimes it's perfectly okay to simply talk about the things that are really not okay.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I want to share that I have had the really awesome experience of seeing growth and improvement in different areas. And that's been incredibly healing for me. But just this week, I was contacted by a couple of different churches who were like, hey, we have a situation in our area. It involves harm done by a person in our church to a person in our church. We would like consulting on how to manage this crisis. We actually would prefer to not get it wrong. And we're aware that there are people who are getting it wrong a lot. That's historical baseline. We would like to not get it wrong. And when I was reading A Well-Trained Wife, I was in tears when I got to the point where, after all of the theological harm and marital harm and pastoral harm, she got to the point where a priest, where she had not been a member a long time, saw her harm, believed her, and helped her form an escape and a safety plan, and was willing to stand between her and the person harming her. And didn't even seem to think twice. Just, this is not okay. Here's how you get out. And I'm here for it. It was amazing.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And in the situation that I was just talking about, that's my heart. It's like, that's the reason to speak up. It's not to critique. It's not to tear down. It's not to say every structure is terrible, every man is terrible. It's to say, have you seen this? Would you be willing to shift your view just a little? And honestly, if I receive any level of openness back, to me, that is everything. If there's a hard heart on the other end of that kind of conversation, then to me, that's a clear sign to move on. But I can work with imperfection, right? Not because I've got it, not because I've got perfection, but just let's be imperfect about this thing together. Can we look at this issue together?
While striving toward healthier, safer, more Christ-like approach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love what you just posted, Emily, with your giveaway for how safe is your church, red and green flags. That's a free checklist that Emily has on her website that you're welcome to grab. And I think that's fantastic that you have that resource available.
It was based off of what I was looking for, because my husband and I decided to switch churches a couple of years ago. And knowing what I know now, I'm like, okay, my expectations are probably very different for churches than most individuals. And I said, as we visit churches, I want to, if we find one that we're interested in, set a time to meet with leadership and like basically interview them. And so I created this long list of questions on my phone, and they were like, how do you handle divorced individuals at your church? What would you do if a woman said that she was being emotionally abused? How would you handle that? Like, I had all of these questions that a lot of them were about safety and what are your views towards women and what are your views toward protecting vulnerable individuals, whether that be individuals who are experiencing abuse or individuals who have spiritual abuse in their background, or physically disabled individuals. A lot of my questions were around that as well. And so growing up, my family and what I was taught was to look at, do you agree with everything theology-wise? And what about the music? Is the music truly glorifying to God, or does it have evil drums in it? Or what are the women wearing? Is everybody dressed modestly? Is everybody homeschooling? And this very cookie cutter type community where everyone believes the exact same, looks the same, talks the same, lives the same lifestyle. And then to come from that to creating a list of questions that are that don't involve any of that, but instead are around inclusion and the fruits of the Spirit and balances of power. Does one person in this organization hold too much power? What does the accountability structure look like? So I created this list of questions, and eventually I turned that into the Safe Church checklist. And I love the parish we ended up landing in because I don't agree with everything theologically. I agree with I think what are key points, but on arguable passages, I don't agree with everything that our priest believes. But what I love about our parish is that we've got a mix of over a dozen prior denominations. So everybody has radically different backgrounds, and everybody in the church has different belief systems too when it comes to areas of theology that are not crucial to salvation. And I love that they can all come together on really big unifying points, but then also allow for diversity. It's a very, very diverse organization. At the same time, from what I've seen so far, it's really safe in the way that they honor women and that they protect the vulnerable.
Yeah.
I'd like to highlight part of a conversation I've had with you, Emily, about this, because you helped kind of coach me through an experience with church. And you mentioned this checklist or list of questions. And I was able to reference it too. But in your own experience with it and asking these questions, trying to find a safe church, your approach was really gentle and really patient. And you encouraged me and shared that you've also just taken the time to really get to know a church or a church leader. So you have these questions, but you're not coming in hot with all of them at once and you've got to answer them all a certain way, right? Like picking a few that felt most important at the time and getting those answered. And if that went well, then pick a few more and just let it develop over time, because you can't necessarily know someone's heart or their fruit in one conversation.
Right.
Absolutely. Right. I didn't want to appear antagonistic. But you're right. Sometimes you have to be patient, and it can be very easy for survivors to become triggered when going into a new environment. That is completely normal and understandable. But I had a panic attack the first time I walked into our current parish. And
I remember you writing me that day.
I did. But I held space for it, and I knew just because I had had a panic attack, the reason I had a panic attack was not because the church was unsafe. It just triggered something in my past. And I chose to wait it out and see, like, is my body sensing something that I don't consciously know at this point? Or am I just having a reaction to the past that is normal and expected? And instead I'm gonna like lean in and dig in and find the actual truth about, is this a safe environment based off of their values and belief systems?
Right. I think for me, this stuff boils down to, does your theology end up reflecting 1 Corinthians 13 and the fruits of the Spirit? Because you can have all the right doctrine, right teaching, all of the things that checks all of those boxes. And if you have not love, you are nothing. And you can have a whole list of proof texts for determining the exact, precise answers for everything. Hey, come get the dog, please. Hold on. You can have all of those things.
You almost done, Mom?
Nope. You can have all of those things. Fix the lock on my door, please.
Momming never stops.
It doesn't. You can have all of those things, and if you don't have the fruit of the Spirit, then something in the core belief system is producing entitlement and control and coercion, manipulation. So something isn't okay. And we were talking before we came on live about how those things we believe directly impact the way we treat others. And that shows up in friendships, family relationships, and even parenting. And you'd had some good thoughts lately, Deb. I think I'll drop a note on what you actually had a post today, didn't you, about that?
Yeah, thanks. I actually have a wrap up thought to what you were just saying.
Oh, go for it.
We're looking at the fruits of the Spirit in a church. If we're noticing that they're absent and we feel called to address that, we really need to be careful that the way we address it is also in line with the fruits.
Yes. Very, very important.
Yes, I did have a post today. I actually have switched gears now that we're out of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And this month, I'm focusing on letting you all know more about who I am. And I'm doing that through a sticky note series. When I was early on in my healing journey, and still, I'm very doodly. I like to write notes. I have lists of things all the time. But part of my healing was making little sticky notes anytime a new thought really resonated with me, or there was some quote that really impacted me, or something that I wanted to sink deeper into my soul, that I wanted to feel more true. And I have a ton of them. But I recently collected them all up, and now I'm making posts out of them. And today's has to do with what a good father looks like. And personally, that has it's meant I'm looking at God in a different way. But then I also, what does it look like when the parallel parent gets all this praise, but I've had a different experience of you? So my sticky note says, a good father loves unconditionally, teaches intentionally, disciplines carefully, and forgives immediately. And this has helped me come back to understanding God as not being coercive and controlling and manipulative, all abusive things. And it's also helped me to go, okay, if a parent or a person is not these things, then they're probably not as good as maybe their parade of people.
Well, just like the whole here, and I actually was just able to get this. Let me see if I can share the picture of yours. Let me see if I can do this here. We'll see. I was trying to do it while
I love that you
you
just
were
took a
talking.
picture of it.
I did.
As your post. I love that.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Thanks for linking it too. For some reason, I am not able to join the chat. So thank you for posting.
There we go. There we go. There it is.
It's even got a little foodie smudge on it.
Like, it has a crumb.
Yeah. So, yeah. And you were talking with us too before this about just using the month of November to remember what we're thankful for rather than constantly focusing on our triggers. And I think this is an opportunity. I hadn't thought about it consciously actually, but doing this sticky note series is a way for me to go back and be thankful for the thoughts that God's put in my path, the new ideas, the new frameworks and beliefs that I've been able to have the time and the space and the freedom and the safety to let them absorb into my soul and become part of me in a new way. So as you see my notes, it's yes, get to know me. I hope it helps you, but also like, thank you, God, for where you've brought me. Each little note.
They're a glimpse into your past and the journey of recognizing healthier belief systems, which is a huge part of healing.
Yes.
And I know for me, when I began recognizing a role in my life, the role in my life that choosing gratitude has, that allowing myself to really daily focus on things that make me thankful, grateful. I even did a workshop about it at the beginning of the year, like the gold that you hold in your hands. Like, what are the assets that I actually have in my hands that I'm not even thinking about? Shifting to that mindset instead of just scarcity, everything is gone, everything is bad, everything is done, everything is about to blow up, can have a profound effect on our nervous system. And I know, Emily, you said you were working on some material about this kind of thing, right?
Yes. So I don't know where I first heard the concept. I think I first heard this a few years ago. We all know what triggers are. We're well aware of what it feels like to be triggered. But
no, I cannot relate. Zero ability to relate.
A lot of people, I don't think, are aware of what is the opposite of a trigger, and that's a glimmer, what a lot of people have called glimmers. And
I heard that first from Heather Elizabeth, actually.
Me too.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I may have heard it from Mary Catherine Backstrom. That may have been.
Oh.
I know she's written about it before.
Right.
But glimmers are they're the opposite of the triggers. They're those moments throughout the day where something just sparks joy in your life, or peace, or contentment, or gratitude. And some people might call them God winks. Sometimes they can be just appreciating nature. and you go outside and you just, I have right now this beautiful maple tree in my backyard. And every time I see it, it's just huge and it's bright red and it just sparks joy every time I see it. And I just feel like this calm in my nervous system of, oh, this is a good thing that God has given. And they can be little things like something that your child says that just lights you up, or appreciating the comfort of a really amazing meal, or that act of kindness that a random stranger does when you're out shopping. Those are glimmers. And when you're experiencing a particularly traumatic season where it's very easy to feel hopeless and trapped, focusing or acknowledging those glimmers when they happen, I think, is a reminder that we are not alone in this.
Yeah.
I remember when I first started deconstructing and reconstructing my faith, one of the repeat phrases I had in my head was, I am held. And I had this visual picture of God with these huge hands and my little figure in the center of one of his palms. And I just had this picture of being held, because I don't believe God is the author of our pain. I don't think he ever authors it. I think sometimes he allows it, maybe for reasons that we don't understand, or simply because he allows freedom of choice. He allows each person to have autonomy. And so harmful individuals who choose to do harm to others, are acting out of their own autonomy, and that is a gift that God has given everybody. And so we're going to experience that. But it was so helpful for me to realize that even when I was going through very traumatic times, I was constantly held. I was not forgotten. And I was reminded of that practically through the glimmers that I saw each day. I mean, we know the scripture that God cares for the sparrows. And if he cares for the sparrows, then why would we think that he cares for us any less?
Right. Yeah.
I love that. I'm thinking about a little quote that keeps floating around the internet, something along the lines of, we don't heal so that we can handle our trauma, we heal so we can handle joy. And I feel like, right? It's like a different level. I think we get to a point where we're like, oh, life is good, but we still default to trauma loops, and it's like we integrate the heightened nervous system rather than believing that it can actually be calm and feel peaceful. So I love that you even just highlighted, you look at this tree and your nervous system feels different. And to learn how to identify that feeling and then actually let yourself pursue that rather than fall back into the default of heightened alert, it's like a new growth that has to happen beyond maybe where you've ever been before. That's been true for me. To learn how to embrace joy is like a new territory in some ways.
It's terrifying.
Sometimes it's a conscious choice.
Yeah.
Too. Because sometimes when we are really going through it, we can be in a flight or fight or fawn state or freeze state 24/7. Like, we can just get bombarded with it. And I know what it's like to constantly catastrophize in my head. And just,
zero stars, do not recommend.
I'm one of those individuals that tends to both replay previous conversations on loop, also rehearse future conversations on loop, which I know doesn't make sense, but I tend to do that.
Oh, it does.
And I can get stuck in that constantly, and I'm just keeping my nervous system like in knots the whole time I do that. Sometimes I have to make a conscious choice of, no, I'm not going to continue that loop. I'm going to make a shift. So that would be using a self-regulation technique. Or sometimes it's just a really, really good distraction. Like put on a really funny movie that is going to distract you from thinking about the traumatic circumstance that you're going through right now. Like it doesn't mean that you're putting your head in the sand and you're ignoring or that you're choosing ignorance. It means that you're choosing to set the grief and anger aside for an hour or two. And it's those little bits, those breaks that you can give your nervous system through conscious choice that can help you survive every single day when you are going through a very difficult time.
That's a huge victory just in itself, to give yourself space between the feeling and the response to the feeling. Because when you're in a traumatic situation or relationship, there's this chaotic sense of urgency all the time, and you got to jump and you got to like, please, you got to contort yourself, and it's got to be now. You're already like 10 steps behind if you haven't already figured out what they're thinking. So that simple act of, I feel something, but I'm going to give myself space before I even respond, is a huge victory.
You know, Coach Bren with Wild, she's not here with us today, but she does a lot of work in trauma and nervous system regulation and understanding your brain. And one of the things that she has talked to me often about is how trauma, well, let me back up. In a healthy nervous system, we have a gap of space between stimulus and response. So something happens, and a regulated nervous system is able to decide how we want to react. Trauma collapses the space between stimulus and response. So when something happens, we're already there in that triggered space. And part of healing is the process of lengthening back that space where something can happen. There's a stimulus. I see something, I hear something, I smell something, I feel something. I discover a piece of information, and I'm able to decide how to react. What is the best response here? Instead of being in that survival instinct, just no thought process, just instant response. Now, when we're in survival mode, like let's say you're out in the woods and a rattlesnake jumps out in front. Rattlesnakes don't jump, but you come onto a rattlesnake, or a mountain lion jumps out in front of you. A mountain lion can jump. But whatever, you instantly are faced with a survival situation. You can't take the time to stop and carefully ponder all your options. You will be dead, right? So in a survival situation, God has created our nervous system to be able to kick in, override all of that methodical, conscious thought, and simply operate on instinct. And it is a life-saving ability. It's good. It was given to us in our makeup, but it is not where we were meant to live. And we can get stuck there, where we are living in an ongoing state of instant reflex, that survival hypervigilance. Oops, we lost it. Instead of living with a healthy gap between stimulus and response. You're back.
Okay.
So
I wrote
a
post about that in my private group. I have a private Facebook group for survivors. And
it's a subscription group, right, Emily?
It is, and I will post a link to that in just a second.
Yeah, drop a link to it.
But it's like $5 a month, and it's just filled with really rich, informative posts, more so than I post publicly, because I want to save the really, really good stuff for my small group. But in my small group, I was sharing how I don't believe that our brains were ever created to handle the amount of worldwide information that we take in every single day. Where social media is a gift and the news is a gift. And I'm glad that we can be connected around the world. But the unfortunate other side of that is that we know about every tsunami, every natural disaster, every mass incident where people are losing lives. We're aware of that 24/7. Whether you're listening to the news or you're watching it on TikTok, like we're aware of very traumatic world events that are constantly happening. And I don't think our nervous systems were designed, honestly, to be on that high alert all the time. And so you have to be really intentional sometimes to step away. And I encouraged the ladies in my subscription group to put the phone down for a while, like step away from social media for a day and just, it's okay. You can cut out the noise. You can reconnect with quiet, with nature, unplug everything. Your nervous system needs it because
the world will keep spinning.
The world
even
will
if
keep
you're
spinning.
not plugged in.
Yes.
And if you're neurodivergent, if you're on the autism spectrum, if you're ADHD, if you have any of those forms of neurodivergence, it's possible that your brain is taking in up to 40% more information and sensory stimuli than the average neurotypical brain. So given the fact that we are already living on a baseline of overload, if you are also neurodivergent as a survivor, then you're living on a baseline of overload plus 40% extra intake of information than other people around you. So if you happen to feel overwhelmed, brain fogged, fatigued, worn down, drained, guess what? There are good reasons for it.
Yeah.
You are in good company. Yeah. Well, as we're moving into November, if you're watching this with us now, then fabulous. If you're watching this later and you've hung out with us to the point of the 52-minute mark, I want to encourage you to go ahead and do this. You can do it no matter what time of the year that you are watching this. But if you're hanging out with us right now, I want to invite you to challenge yourself to focus on gratitude for whatever things are good, healing opportunities, assets, glimmers around you. It can even be, thank you, God, for opening my eyes to the incredible, horrible stuff I was experiencing. I mean, thank you, God, for my changed mindset. Thank you for what I'm learning, even though it's really hard and it's tough right now. And it's unraveling everything I thought was real. But thank you, God, for bringing this to me. Mm-hmm. I know I'm probably going to pull out a special journal for the month of November, and I'm going to write gratitude stuff each day, which it's November 2, so that means I need to catch up for yesterday, but whatever. I'll manage. So if you want to join me in that, you're welcome to do that. And I want to make sure, let me pop up here. There we go. It should be coming up here for a second. There we go. There is Emily's private support group. It's a $5 a month support group for women who are survivors. And she shares a ton of extra information there. So I want to make sure you have that option if you would like. Deb, do you have any things that, I know you're working on a ton of stuff, but do you have any links that we can put up from Bold New You right now?
Currently, it's just my Facebook page. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, drop that in and I will pop that up so that you can, anyone who's watching right now can follow Deb. Also, I am going to drop, I have a monthly subscription group too. It's $9 a month and it's called The Scoop, and you get one group coaching session a month. It's live interactive and free access to the workshops that otherwise are like anywhere from $37 to $47 each. You get them right now. It's $9 a month. That will be going up because we have so many workshops in there. So I'm going to put mine in here as well.
Sarah, will you add mine? I did not log in before we started.
Yeah, sure. No problem.
Post.
I will add it. Just 1 second here.
Thank you.
Finish typing this one. Does anybody who's watching have any questions that you want us to answer before we go? Because I know we're about to wrap up here and we just want to make sure nobody's missed. There we go. There's mine. I'll drop that in. And okay, let me grab yours. So one of you guys say something while I'm grabbing Deb's link.
I got nothing.
Or not. I mean, you don't have to if you don't want to.
You just put two introverts on the spot.
I know.
I totally just did that, didn't I? All you have to do is just make crazy faces.
Right?
How about an upcoming glimmer?
Okay.
I'm excited for. My kiddos like to do a glow-in-the-dark dinner every year, and we're going to do that tonight. They each get to bring a friend, and we're going to darken up the kitchen, like cover the windows with black tablecloths and put up glow lights and black lights and things. Should be fun.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Immediately after this, my church is starting to host a once-a-month sewing circle.
That's
so
cool.
I'm totally going to fulfill my Anne of Green Gables dreams. I'll meet with the other ladies at the sewing circle while we chit-chat and work on our projects.
I love it.
Will your project have puffed sleeves?
No, it's cross-stitch.
I am very let down. It needs to have puffed sleeves. The cross stitch that you're doing does the cross stitch have puffed sleeves?
It is an old-fashioned quilt. Like it's like a scene with a window and a rocking chair and a quilt, and it's part of like this 3 set where one is the quilt and another one is like a dress being sewn and the other one is an embroidery project. It's called like, I don't know. It's a trio. It's really neat.
That's really cool. I used to cross stitch so much and crochet and knit. I would actually, in university, I would bring either cross stitch or crochet because those are probably easier to carry than like big knitting needles in my backpack to like my ancient literature upper level university classes. And it was so weird because I had a job in the business department that required like business suit, like dressy kind of attire. So I would go to class and sit on the front row and crochet in a suit. And people could not figure out like, what box does this chick fit into?
I've even heard some say that knitting can be a form of EMDR, getting right.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it's bilateral stimulation,
yes,
right?
Yes, yes. So, I mean, it can be very calming to the nervous system.
It was. I stitched, crocheted, and knit my way through middle school, high school, and college. It was very, very
what
fun.
I did when I was in the hospital for months at a time as a teenager is how I got through that. So it's very healing.
My big regret is that all the gorgeous big things that I did, I gave them all away. I gave all of them as gifts. I have pretty much none of those huge projects that I did. That makes sense. But, all right. I think we should wrap up. Thank you guys, everyone who's hung out with us this whole morning. Anything else you guys have to share or say before we go? Oh, we're coaches. I didn't say that at the beginning. That was an hour ago. So we do clarity coaching, and we would love to work with you. So if you are looking for healing, I dropped the link here. Let me put this back up. Here we go. There it is. wilderness2wild.com/wild-coaching. You can see each of our specialties and what we focus in right there. And we would love to work with you. And also, if you're a member of the Scoop, the group coaching club, there's a 15% off standing discount for any coaching that you get with any of the three of us. So there you have it. If this is something you've enjoyed hanging out with us today and you would like to work with one of us more, just check out that website, wilderness2wild.com/wild-coaching, and we would love to work with you. All right, guys. It's been great.
Yeah. Thank you.
We'll see you hopefully next Saturday.
Be live from Colorado.
Yes, I would be live from Colorado next Saturday. So we'll see how it goes. Okay. Bye, guys.